Hey, it's me. Now, I've had a few people ask me on my Twitter and Tumblr page how to clone yourself. I did this as a little experiment when I lived in my previous flat, and it was effectively a cheats way of cloning yourself with a picture. Now, there are two ways you can do this. Well, to clone yourself, one, you can have millions of pounds and do it illegally. Wouldn't recommend it because it takes time and the outcome isn't always great. Two, you can become a ninja and clone yourself that way if ever you watch Naruto. Or the secret third way is effectively just what I'm about to show you, which is taking lots and lots of pictures and then piecing them together. So, without further ado, here are the 5 steps into making yourself cloned. Now, the two most important things to have with regard to this is obviously your camera and your laptop or netbook or however you're going to piece it together. Now, the camera I've picked is this. This is the Coolpix. Actually, the Coolpix S3000. Now, you may remember this camera from a few years ago, where it had Robbie Williams taking a picture of the crowd that he was entertaining at the time. So it's a nice little camera. It's not necessarily basic, but for 100 quid, it's very lightweight, it's very easy to use, and it has a wide variety of different scenes. So, for instance, come on. It's a problem that you can't see it from my point of view, but you can see it from there. So you got standard auto mode, scene selector with uh, 17 different scene types. Then you got smart portrait, subject tracking, and then video mode. I'm actually using the video camera on my the webcam on my computer because it makes the file smaller and it's easier for me to run. But some of the other ones I've used this one when I've been on a holiday, or my actual video camera, handy cam I've got. Pick your camera wisely and pick the scene, or if you really want to do it properly, you can take a very long time to do it. If you're doing it quickly, like I was doing just to show you this, just leave it on scene selector. But make sure that you have plenty of light coming in. If it's a daylight day, you're okay. If it's not, make sure you have the flash on or plenty of artificial light on as well. Now, here we go, and here's how we do things. So when you set the scene, you have to make sure that you've got as little as possible in the way, effectively. So, for instance, in the pictures that I'm going to show you, I've taken out everything that was on the table or on the chairs. So, for instance, um, placemats, cutlery, anything on the windowsill that can be covered. Now, you'll see why in a second. The other reason that you have to set the scene on this is because it makes it a lot easier to actually piece it together afterwards. So, for instance, I've got the window. In the first trial I did, I had all the curtains closed, but then the pictures came out too dark. So I've opened them. Luckily, I have a sunny day, as you can see in the window behind me. With regard to that, as I said, you can make it as easy or as difficult as possible. If you want to do this as a beginner, make it as easy as possible. Clear everything out of the way and just have you and whatever you're going to use. So you'll see why now. Okay, the next one is how many pictures do you actually want to actually take? More importantly, how many poses you're going to need. So, for instance, if you've got a really tiny space, you're going to want to leave it to a maximum of maybe about 3, potentially 4 pictures. If for like in my front room, if you have something like a large hall where you can take hundreds of pictures, then go for it. The bigger the space and the more consistent it is. So, for instance, if you were in like a basketball hall or something, but there weren't any but all the seats were empty and it was just yourself. Now you can piece that together very easily because you have a very wide space and it never changes. The actual scenery itself never changes. So as long as you keep the camera in the same spot and then just put it on timer, then you're pretty much lucky to actually do that. Now I am going to point out this is going to be a case of trial and a lot of error, unfortunately, because of the nature of it. Um, I've actually done this, well, I did this morning, and I ended up taking about 20 photos just before, in sort of succession blocks of sort of 3 or 4, just so I could actually get the actual pictures that I wanted. Because the problem that we have, well, the problem I have, is that because I've got so many windows in my front room, I've got light coming in from different angles, so I have to try and make it so that every single picture has the same lighting, same natural lighting completely. Otherwise, you get different shades. Like some pictures will be very light, some will be very dark. Um, Another thing that you have to take into account is that if you're using a sofa, if it's one giant piece of fabric that you're going to sit on, it creases in obviously wherever you sit or whatever you do with it. So you have to take that into account. Whereas you want something that's stable. So for instance, in one of my original ones I did, which I haven't got on here, um, I had a bigger front room, so I could actually take a wider shot, and I had a three-seater and a two-seater sofa, and I had one picture of me on the three and one on the two, and then I a picture of me in front of either one of them, so I wasn't in the way. Whereas in this room, because I've got a smaller front room now, you'll see why in one of the pictures, but you'll see there's actually a little piece that I haven't been able to piece it together properly, but it will all make sense in a minute. I'll show you where it is. Right, so when you're happy with everything, you can go ahead and upload your pictures to your computer, however you're going to do it. So SD card, camera, Bluetooth it, email it, blah blah blah. You have to make sure that you can use the program Paint, just a simple office program. I don't know what you would use in any of the Apple items. I've never used it, so I can't tell you on that one. However, with Paint, this one is actually very easy, hence the reason why I'm doing it with this simple step. Also because I've never used any of the other sort of high-end programs, so I have no idea how to use them. I do have Paint.net, but I've very rarely used it, and I prefer to do things on this kind of simple way, because then if I need to do anything, and I know how to use Paint easily, it's one of the easiest programs out there for Microsoft. So upload them all and make sure that they're either JPEG, PNG or bitmap. You'll see why, because of the size of the picture. It also depends on the size on the camera rate. So for instance, if you've got one set so it'll take a massive picture, when you upload it to your computer, the picture itself could be 5-6 megs per picture. This isn't going to make much difference, but it's just sort of up to you on that one. It depends on how clear you want the pictures to be, etc. So here we go. Right, and you're done. So you can now have a look at your finished masterpiece. Depending on how it turns out, you may want to have a bit of you may want to start again, have a bit of a play around with it. When it comes to blending in colors and that sort of stuff, you shouldn't really need to do so if you follow these 4 simple steps technically. Um, to actually do this is very easy. It just takes time and a bit of preparation. That's the hard part. That's all it is. So now you can marvel at yourself and say, I've managed to clone myself. And you can freak out all your friends and family, but only in picture form. They'll be like, how did you do that? And you'll be like, the wonders of computers and my sleight of hand. That came out wrong. So I'm going to show you the other set of pictures that I took. And this was just out of a whim on this one, so you have something to work from. And I'll also point out the the little piece that I had a problem with regard to the sofa, and you'll see why it's you have to set the scene and plan it out. That's all it is. So um, I'm going to leave you on that one, and next week I'm potentially going to be doing a little cooking thing that I found, but it depends on money at the moment because I'm a bit skint. So I will see you then. Rock on. One final piece, as I've put down in the final picture, you can see the little red circle that indicates where the error was. Now the problem I have, as I mentioned, is that because I sat on the sofa and because I was doing this quickly, both seat cushions are level when they're not being sat on naturally. But then once I sat on one, that bit moved. But the problem was because I hadn't planned. As again, this was just to show you on this. And this was just an extra thing I just did the last second. The table one is actually the main one. Because that cushion moved and this one moved further down, I didn't plan on that. So this is why you need to plan the scene properly and then make sure you've got things that are either easy to move around or easy to actually use at the same time. So take that into account when you're doing it. Now go ahead and make lots and lots of pictures and post them onto Instagram or Facebook or Twitter or Tumblr or WordPress. Link them onto me. It's Rob Brinlow, all one word. I'd like to see your pictures actually, and then I'm gonna think about making some more, but I'm gonna do outside ones. That is where it gets really tricky. But if you want to go and see anyone who's very good at it, go look up a lady called Miss Aniela, and she was the person who actually inspired me many years ago from a newspaper cutting I saw in the Sun where she was effectively duplicating herself as she called it. Go look her up. She's very good, and off you go. Bye.